More perspective now from CNN political and foreign policy analyst Ravid. What are your sources telling you about this?
Well, Anderson, what I heard from several Israeli officials over the last few hours is that it is clear to everybody that what happened with this strike was a serious violation of the IDF protocols and rules of engagement, okay? To call it a misidentification or a mistake, that's the understatement of the century, okay? And this is not an isolated incident. The reason that we talk about it here is because it's WCK, it's a very well-known and famous NGO, but those incidents happen every few days in Gaza.
We've seen this throughout this entire experience.
Exactly. And
you earlier have talked about it being a disconnect between what IDF commanders maybe at headquarters are thinking and what the troops on the ground are actually doing.
Yeah, you saw in the video of the IDF Chief of Staff, Herzi Halevi. I'm sure that there are a lot of IDF commanders and soldiers in Gaza that watch this video and say, what is he talking about? Okay? Because there is a disconnect between how the IDF senior brass is looking at this and how it develops the rules of engagement and the orders, and what happens when those percolate down to the forces in Gaza, especially to the field commanders, the lieutenant colonels, the brigade commanders, the battalion commanders. They're not in the same place as the senior command.
But you say they're not in the same place, both literally, they're in Gaza, they're not in headquarters, and they're also the ones fighting, and they have a different attitude about, let's just get this done.
I think each commander on the ground has a different interpretation of the orders, and this is why you see what you see.
That's
this
a
is
recipe
not
for disaster.
This is a recipe for a disaster, not only in Gaza, but for the destruction of a professional military. Okay, this is not how a professional military conducts its operations. And for years, the IDF was considered, not only here in the U.S., but in the West overall, as a very professional military. And what we've seen in this strike, but in many other strikes that we didn't talk about, is that this thing during this war, this professionalism has gone away.
And Netanyahu's response is often, well, this stuff happens. I mean, he said that about this strike. He said that about the shooting of an Israeli guy who was trying to stop a terror attack. He said that multiple times.
Yeah, and this is why this incident shouldn't come as a surprise. You remember that just a few weeks ago, 3 Israeli hostages that managed to escape their captors were killed by Israeli soldiers who fired at them even though they were holding a white flag, okay? And, I spoke to an Israeli reserve officer who was in the same unit of those soldiers who shot those hostages. And I remember him telling me that the orders are basically, from the commanders on the ground, is just shoot every man in fighting age. Those are the orders, but that's not the rules of engagement that is coming from the IDF leadership.
But on the ground, that's what they're being told.
Exactly, and this is the same thing. At the end of the day, the battalion commander or the brigade commander, I don't know who authorized this strike, he interprets differently the orders that are coming from the IDF headquarters in Tel Aviv.
Ravid, appreciate it. Thank you.